When a man faces death, his startling revelation unveils WW3 with Jesus. Everyone. Amid all the chaos in the world, our storyteller stands firm in his belief that his unique experience can offer a glimmer of hope. In these shaky times, he's diving into his story with the goal of bringing some positivity. Now let's get into it. He's been chewing on the idea of sharing his near-death experience for more than 3 decades, even when faced with doubtful looks. Brace yourself for some raised eyebrows because he's here to share. After all, sometimes the best wisdom comes from the most unexpected places. Back in '91, he was just an 18-year-old without a care in the world. The biggest worry on his plate was whether the Soviets would keep up their saber-rattling. As the high school football team captain, juggling his budding romance with his future wife and getting attention from multiple schools, life was good. Sure, the dream of NFL stardom from his Pee Wee League days didn't quite pan out, but a full scholarship was a sweet consolation. That year, they were on the brink of an undefeated season, and everything was riding on one game. The day before, the whole school was rooting for them, hoping for that elusive undefeated record. Game day was a wild ride of excitement, with students chanting, "We're going to crush them," and "undefeated baby." But of course, there was that lingering what if. Now, to keep this from turning into a football saga, they did win, beating the other team 42-35. The celebrations stretched into the wee hours, and the joy stuck around for most of the year, with invites to parties flooding in. Fast forward to the night of his near-death experience. A spooky feeling whispered in his ear, advising, "James, don't go, stay home. You can skip one little party." Hindsight is 20/20ths, and he wishes he'd listened, but hey, he was a carefree 18-year-old back then. So Derek, the co-captain and a towering figure at 6'5" and 275 pounds, was known for his aggressive antics, especially when he had a bit too much to drink. Playing mediator at parties had become a regular gig, and this night was no different. They rolled up to the party fashionably late, only to be offered stuff they probably should have passed on. Right by the front door, Derek was in a showdown with a stranger ready to throw down. Despite an inner voice telling him to steer clear, he threw caution to the wind and tried to calm Derek down. Long story short, things got out of hand, and a brawl broke out. They thought it was over, but the guy came back packing heat, shooting both Derek and our storyteller. Watching the chaos unfold from a distance, his girlfriend and friend were freaking out. When the paramedics showed up, he felt like his spirit was floating above his body. He overheard them talking about his gunshot wounds and watched as they loaded him into the ambulance. As the ambulance zoomed away, he felt like his spirit was hitching a ride. So, like in the ambulance, things got real intense. The paramedic was hustling, trying to keep this 18-year-old dude alive after getting shot. The paramedic was all like, "Come on, kid, don't you dare die on me," and radioing the hospital. And our guy, watching this crazy scene, felt his soul or whatever zooming through this bright tunnel. It was like being sucked up by a tornado, or so he thought. After cruising through the clouds and blinding light, he started getting what was going on. There was this beautiful singing, like angels were dropping a mixtape or something. He floated closer and bam, there was Jesus. 2 things hit him: he was dead, and he wanted to chill here. Wrapped up in this crazy love and peace vibe that words can't really describe, like imagine the happiest moment ever times a billion. Jude was in awe as Jesus strolled up. And Jesus wasn't rocking the usual Sunday robe, he had some fashion sense with curly hair, greenish eyes, and a neatly trimmed stash and beard. Our guy, being all religious, was like, "Yeah, Earth's depictions don't do you justice." Closest thing was this painting called Prince of Peace. Lost in his thoughts, Jesus dropped a bomb in his head, saying, "Hey James." And it wasn't weird. It felt like they'd been pals forever. Jesus spilled the beans that he wasn't actually dead, but caught in between. In between what? Our guy mumbled. Turns out, his spirit was at a crossroads. Jesus spilled that he could go back to the grind if he wanted, 'cause there were things tying him to earthly life. What if I stick around? He thought. Jesus spilled the heavenly tea. You'll hang with me and pops up in heaven. And if I bounce back? He asked. Jesus, with a smile, dropped some truth. You'll spread joy, especially to folks who ain't even born yet. Then, out of nowhere, 3 kids popped up, calling him Dad. Choice time. He told Jesus he was down to head back. Jesus was cool with it, but had a heads up about Earth changes. They did this life review thing, no judgment, just checking out the good, bad, and ugly moments. It was a wild ride. So, picture this. After going through some serious stuff, this guy gets a glimpse of his future and also what's in store for Earth. Because of his injuries, he's kissing his college scholarship goodbye and ends up learning welding at a trade school. His girlfriend heads to a college in another state, causing a bit of a hiccup, but they eventually figure things out, tie the knot, and even have kids who miraculously popped up next to him and Jesus. Pretty wild, right? There were more details, but he's keeping those under wraps for now. No, he didn't get any winning lottery numbers. Bummer. Now, Jesus, of all people, spills the beans on Earth's future. Brace yourself. The Soviet Union takes a tumble, there are terror attacks in the US, and World War III kicks off after the Koreas decide to reunite, throwing the whole world into chaos. How bad it gets? Well, that's up in the air. So, why did Jesus spill all these future deets? According to him, our guy needed the heads up for what's coming after he heads back. Suddenly, he's back in the ambulance, feeling the aftermath of a defibrillator, blood taste in his mouth, and pain from his injuries. Ouch. Welcome back, kid. Don't try to talk or move. We're almost at the hospital. At the hospital, a squad of trauma surgeons, amazed that he's still kicking, jumps into action. Recovery takes time, and during that, he sees the Soviet Union doing its thing, collapsing, just like Jesus said. Life doesn't go easy on him, though. He loses that scholarship, patches things up with his girlfriend, and goes through the heartbreak of the 2001 terror attacks. But through it all, he's growing, trying to make things right with people he messed up with. The big question is, why did Jesus give him the lowdown on the future? Forgiveness happens, but some folks face the consequences. One even lands in prison. As the years roll by, he and his wife thrive, and he's still holding on to the hope of going back to that celestial light. Sharing this crazy story 31 years later brings some relief and hope, making him believe there's a better place out there, guided by a watchful Heavenly Father. If this story's your jam and you want more of the same, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our crew. Your support is everything, and we're stoked to have you on board. Thanks for hanging out, and get ready for more awesome stuff heading your way.